Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. It's me, Steven. Welcome to Vlogmas Day 22. Absolutely nothing happened today. I was thinking of renting a car because the day was gorgeous, but I didn't want to drop $60, $70 just to drive around, so I stayed home. I did go to the grocery and bought some kitty litter, but I didn't think you wanted to join me on that particular journey, so I did not take you. But then I remembered yesterday I asked you guys if you had any questions for me for a future question and answer video. And you came to my rescue. There's a ton of questions here. So instead of just trying to make up something for you to watch on day 22, I figured I'd just do a question and answer. There's no general topic. I'm not doing it in any order outside of the order they came in. I'm gonna go to the bottom and work my way up. And if you have questions I don't answer here or that you've wondered, you've asked yourself, feel free, come back to my my channel, go to the community tab, look for the post where I ask about, if you have any questions. Feel free to add on to that comment section, and I'll answer those questions in a future video. I love question and answer videos because it really does lead me to maybe think or talk about things I wouldn't always come to mind. But let's get started. So AvGeek84 asks, have you ever been to Europe or the UK? Yes, I lived in Germany from the age of 10 to 14. We lived in the Stuttgart area, southwestern Germany. That's back way before the wall fell. And I went to junior high and freshman year of high school on Army and Air Force bases in Germany. I went to freshman year of high school at Patch Air Force Base, which I don't think exists anymore, but that's what happens when you get old. Things close. But I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I saw everything. And as a young man, hungry for knowledge and change, because when I'm from a small town and I was actually from Rhode Island, don't tell. I just thought it fascinating. I thought everything was fascinating there. We lived in, for a year or so, we lived in a place called Schönhausen in a 700-year-old house, I think. It was just like, it was originally a farmhouse with a real carved stone trough with a big hook over it, which is where you used to hang a pig, and you would cut its throat and it would bleed into that trough. And as a 10-year-old boy, that was cool. So I loved living in Germany. I got fat living in Germany. We saw most of Europe, but we never went to the UK. I would love to go to Ireland. I would love to go to Scotland. I would love to go to those two places. London really never had a big draw for me, although I do watch a lot of YouTube videos. The English Heritage channel, I think it is. Anything with Mrs. Crocombe. I will watch anything with Mrs. Crocombe. Anybody else here watch those videos? I adore her and the actress that plays Mrs. Crocombe as well. And AdGeek84 is suggesting I also maybe do a crossover video with someone from the UK. Maybe after all this is over, because those poor people are going through absolute hell, particularly in the UK right now. So maybe one day. Julie Perkins asks, what's your most and least favorite airport and why? I don't have an answer for that. I'm sorry. I don't have any airport that I hate more than others. No, I don't hate any of them. Some have better signage. I think that's important. Like trying to find KCM in some airports is like, where's Waldo? It's hard. But I don't hate any airports. I don't love any airports and either. I think Vegas, I guess, is one of my favorites, only because it means I'm home when the trip is over. Yeah, I really don't have any favorite or least favorite airport. Sorry. Same question. Lana Robbins asked the same thing about my favorite or least favorite states. And again, I really can't tell you I have any least or favorite state. She asked, would I plan on retiring in one of my favorite ones? The only place, and this won't be a surprise for my OG subscribers, the only place that has any gravity for me is the St. Pete, Tampa, Clearwater area in Florida. That's really the only place that has any gravity for me. I could see myself retiring there because there's a huge art community down there, a huge clay community. I don't love beaches so much. I don't love sand. I really hate sand. But I love the water, and I love the cloudscapes and the weather, and I do like that part of Florida. It's attached to the rest of Florida, though, which is the problem. And the mosquitoes, of course, are a problem. But I don't have any states I hate. I really don't dislike any other state. The places that come to mind are places I just don't know very well. Like, I don't know New Jersey at all, outside of, like, my layover. And is there anybody from New Jersey here who is familiar with the Pine Barrens? Anybody do a little research on the Pine Barrens? I have some distant family. I think most of them are dead now, but I have some distant family in the Pine Barrens, and they called them Pineys. People called them Pineys. And they were like almost Appalachian. I mean, they were really a different kind of person. But I really don't know any state well enough to hate it or love it. There you go. That was a very good answer. Sorry. Another question that's hard to answer is Stephen War 30 asked, what is it you like most about cats? Well, that's hard to really explain. Besides, like, they're beautiful, they're low maintenance for the most part. That's nice. But cats are kind of like, I don't know, it's hard to say. It's hard to define the gravity towards cats. Their demeanors, their personalities, the subtlety of cats and their behaviors, and discovering their motivations and what drives them and what pleases them, and how that seems to shift almost moment by moment is oddly satisfying. It's kind of like playing a video game. Like, I play Skyrim or Fallout 4, you know. It's like having a relationship with a cat is kind of like trying to level up in a game. Every gesture, every snack, every mealtime, every scratch behind their ear or the belly is a slow grinding towards leveling up in your relationship with the cat. I don't know if this is making any sense. Cat owners might know what I'm talking about. But the relationships with them are so subtle and nuanced and complicated and challenging that it's just satisfying. Dogs, I love dogs. I love dogs. Someone earlier asked me, I forgot, AvGeek asked me any thoughts I have on being a JRT dad. I had to ask what that meant. It's a Jack Russell Terrier. I can't. Jack Russell Terriers, they're too smart, they're too energetic, they're too small and dart around, and I just can't. They're just too much. They're just too sensitizing. But dogs are just, in general, just seem to be so like, love me, I love you, anything you want. You know, when cats are like, I don't know. And it's just, they're satisfying in ways that dogs aren't. I don't know. What do I like most about cats? That they're not dogs, but I love dogs too. I don't know. What do you shoot your vlogs with, and what, if any, editing do you do? What program do you use to edit? I use my cell phone to edit, to film and edit. My phone is a Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus, and I use whatever editing software is native to the phone. That's it. And you know, I don't edit much, but my videos aren't very complicated. It's just like going from one thing to the other. And what do I need to do to edit that? Nothing, just a little segue, right? No one's watching my videos for cinematic qualities. I don't think. So I use my cell phone, and there are times I feel kind of like an idiot for using my cell phone when so many of my peers use very expensive vlogging cameras. A very popular camera that I would be nice to have one day is it a Canon G7? I think it's a G7. I think there's like a screen that pops over so you can see yourself in the frame. I can do that with my camera. And I think my phone, I think my phone's camera has a camera that's up to some point and shoot. So I just use my phone. And I edit on my phone, and then I upload it from my phone. So I don't have to pull out my laptop. I don't have to spend like, you know, an hour editing a video. I can just shoot it, connect all the pieces with whatever segues I want, and then upload it to the internet with my phone. I don't know why I would use an expensive camera. If I had 150,000 subscribers, I would go out and buy an expensive vlogging camera, but then I'd have to buy an equally expensive laptop to edit, and then, yeah, a cell phone is fine for me. So I use my cell phone. My next cell phone, because I think Samsung is going to, I think, discontinue the Note series, which will kill me because I have been using a Note since they came out. I've been using Note phones since they came out. But rumor is it they're gonna stick a S Pen, which is like a remote control. I can start and stop filming with this little pen. The rumor is they're gonna use one in the next Z Fold by Samsung. So I'm kind of hoping that's the truth, because I would go for that phone next. It's a $2,000 phone though. I'm almost paid off on this one, so that's good. Let's see. Next question. Can we see some of your ceramics? I did a video about my pieces. I don't know when I did that, though. You could do a quick search for Stephen Pereira pottery, and it might pop up. If I can find it, I'll put it in the comment section below, or the box below. You know what I'll try to do? I'll try to insert some photos I might have on my phone here. So if I can find them, I'll pop those photos here. My favorite pot is a teapot that's got this really great handle. It was my first teapot, and then the relationship I was in, where I was doing pottery pretty much full time, that collapsed and kind of imploded. As did my access to a kiln. So I would love to glaze that one day, but I would have to pay someone to fire just that teapot by itself. No one's going to put a clay body that they're not unfamiliar with in with their firing of their pieces for fear of it doing something like, I don't know, exploding or something, which is possible. So I would literally have to go find someone to I'd have to find a Content glaze that I like, then pay someone to fire that whole kiln just from my one teapot. So I doubt that teapot will ever be glazed, but it's pretty. So I'll try to insert some photos here that I might already have on my phone. There you go. So there are some photos, hopefully, of some pottery. If there's no photos there, I couldn't find them. Sorry. Let's see. Merry Christmas to you and your cat, Stephen. How do you manage your allergies as being a pet parent? That was, it's a journey. I'll tell you, it's a real journey. And sometimes it's still a struggle. When Buddy first joined me in my little studio here, he was half in, half out of the apartment. So my allergies didn't really kill me immediately. But when he stayed in the house more and more often, I really hadn't found an allergy medication, an over-the-counter one, that really worked really well. Until I found this Claritin. I started trying Claritin. I tried Zyrtec and other things. But Claritin, if I took it every 12 hours, helped. But it didn't solve my problem. There were days I would forget to take the Claritin, the knockoff Claritin, during a layover. I would come home, Buddy would spend the night, and I would lay in bed thinking I was going to die in my sleep because I was like suffocating. I literally breathing I'm sorry, I just scared Claire. I was breathing like that at night thinking, I'm going to die. Like, I can't do this. I would leave the house and like walk around at all hours just trying to clear my chest. And then I bought an air purifier and put that next to my bed. That helped. I would like to get a second one, like a big, giant, serious one, but and now I also keep the central air running 24/7, and I have one of the allergen filters in the where the air goes through for the system. So that filters out most of the stuff in the air purifier next to my bed. I do take Claritin, or that knockoff Claritin, at least once a day, sometimes twice a day, and I still, if you listen to some of my videos, you'll hear me breathing, and it sounds like I'm laboring, and I am. Sometimes it's still heavy. Sometimes it's still heavy, and I frequently have to clear my throat because it's just stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty seriously allergic to cats, and I have 3 of them. Did I plan on that? No. All right. So whatever happened to your realtor? Did you guys ever reconnect again? Yes. I don't know what it was, but there was something wrong with my phone settings where I could not actually reach her by text message. So I fixed that. I have reached out to her. It turns out that the house, my house, the one that I'm not going to get, hasn't even gone to probate yet, since I guess probate courts are backed up. And so she said, you know, she really can't tell me it's not going to happen, but there's just absolutely no way of knowing, even imagining what a timeline could be. It could be months or years for this house to come through probate. So, so no idea. Yeah, so I messaged her this morning saying that there's a couple properties I'd be willing to look at after this next trip. So next week you might see me looking at a couple houses. I'm not excited about it because I still want that house. I'm still mourning that house every time I pass it because it's right on the way to work. Yeah, so I still want that house, but I don't know what's going to happen. Does your airline give you money for anything on your layovers? Sort of, yes. Now, if you're a flight attendant, we as flight attendants, we consider this money that's called per diem pay, like our hourly pay. We don't see it as what I think the airline thinks of it as. So the airline gives us something called per diem. My airline gives us, I think it's $2.37 an hour per diem, and that money is intended to go towards food, maintaining our uniforms and our luggage, and travel to and from work, and blah blah blah. So the airline intends that to be sort of helping us do our jobs and feeding us and so on. But as a flight attendant, you see that more as an income rather than an allowance, and that can make a huge difference in your pay. If you're a reserve flight attendant and you don't fly a lot that month, you're gonna feel the loss of per diem, because a per diem could be $500 to $700 a month, depending on how often you fly. So yes, they do give us money, but we see it more as earned income than we do as an allowance for food or something. I was wondering if you'd, Carla Travels, if you'd ever thought of visiting Portugal and reconnecting with your family there. I really don't know anybody or any relationship or connection to anybody in Portugal. My last name, Pereira, is extraordinarily common, apparently. It's like dirt. But I really don't know anybody with from that part of the world. My father's father is from the Azores, from in the Portuguese territory of the Azores. His family, I guess, were fishermen or something. I don't know. I know nothing about him. He died in the 50s of a heart attack. He had black hair, and his skin was super, super dark. Like, he looked like he was from East India or something. That's all I know. So I really have no plans on going back there. I would love to go to the Azores, only because I think it's probably a beautiful place, but not because I have any familial background there. Dolores, I'd like to know what your inspiration is for getting up each day. Nothing like asking the easy questions, Dolores. Aside from having to earn money for basic human essentials, have you always been able to get back up and pick up the pieces and start again? And what helps you do that so well? Well, I don't know if I do that very well. I struggle a lot. Just not getting this house, for example. I'm struggling a lot. Today was a struggle to get out of the house. I lay in bed, honestly, not, just to kind of be honest and transparent. I was in bed until about 2 o'clock this afternoon. I had no reason to get out of bed. The cats had their food. I had the snacks right next to me at my bedside table. I had a bottle of water right there. I wasn't hungry. There was no reason for me to get out of bed. So I didn't get out of bed till about 2:30. 3 o'clock, I went to buy, some kitty litter. That was it. That's the day. So some days I really don't feel like I do that very well. I don't get up and pick up the pieces really well. I kind of lay down with the pieces and kind of roll around in them for a while. And then eventually that gets painful. Rolling around in my own misery and pity party and poor me eventually gets painful enough that you're forced to get up and dust yourself off and do the next right thing. So I really don't think I pick up the pieces very well. I struggle and I roll around in them. I think everyone has challenges in their life. I think everyone faces difficult times. I've just faced so many. And I just always feel like I'm being pushed back so often, just from my brother dying in front of me and having like a drug addict, alcoholic mother and moving. We moved like 17 times before I finally got to escape her. And discovering that I am my mother anyway, and my own addiction and drug, blah, blah, blah. Divorce, being stabbed. It's like, I'm always being like, feels like I'm being pushed down. And when you ask, like, what's your inspiration for getting up each day? Like, I don't have any. I get up when I have to. And do what I have to do to survive. I will say that being a flight attendant and loving my job, boy, I know I sound like a drama queen, don't I? Loving my job as much as I do, it encourages me to get up. Like, if I have a work trip, I almost never get out of bed because I have to. I get out of bed because I'm looking forward to my day. Even the long ones. I love my job so much, and I love the company I work with so much that is my inspiration most days these days. So I don't know if I answered that question very well. I answered it honestly, but I don't know if I did it very well. All right, let's move away from that one. How was your job interview? This is going to be a long video, guys. How was your job interview in your airline? What do you consider important in being a flight attendant, behavior, etc.? So my hiring event was different. My airline does things differently than some in that we have a hiring event where you are invited to it after filling out either this very long questionnaire or video interview, for example. But you're invited to a hiring event. And at my hiring event, there were 520 people, something like that. And it was terrifying. I interview well. I have no problem speaking. Usually I'm well spoken. I can interject fun little stories, and I'm usually quite personable when interviewing. So I often get the job that I'm interviewing for. But when I got there were like 500 smiling, young, healthy, shiny people. And I walked in there middle-aged, living in a car. And I was sure that they didn't want me. I knew they didn't want me, but I needed a job, so there I was. We had a number of points in the day where the folks that were in charge there made cuts. So they would just call out numbers, and they were going to let you know either they would call your number and you were either gone or you moved on to the next phase. It was after the first cut that I really wanted the job. I had heard enough during the orientation that I knew that I really, really, really wanted this job. And when they were calling numbers, and I knew they weren't good because the people who were getting up just did not dress for an interview. They called people's numbers, and my number was 33 that day, and they called 31 or 32, and I was like, please don't call my number, please don't call it. Please don't call my number. And they went right over me, and oh my God, it was the happiest moment. But at the same time, it was great fun. I met amazing people, and I learned about a company that I was really looking forward to working for. What do I consider important as a flight attendant? Patience and love. I think even more than patience. I think if you love people, honestly, not just like, oh, I love people, they make me, if you can really bring yourself to love a stranger, and I mean in the Christ-like way, not that I bring up Christ very often, ever. If you can love people, and not that I'm a Christ-like person, jeepers, I am really not, but I know that I can love people that I don't know. If you watched a recent video of me where I talk with a mother who is having a really difficult time with a baby on board, I was able to walk up to her and kind of show some love and empathy and compassion for a person in a difficult situation. And that is essential. If you can love someone, even if you don't know them or even if you don't like them, then you can find patience to give them the space they need or the time they need. If you love someone, the rest of it kind of falls into place. So, you know, you can be a people person or you can love people. I think there's a huge difference between being a people person and loving people in a true sense of the word. That feels like the best answer I've given on this entire video. Okay. Let's keep going. Once COVID is under control, would you consider hosting a meetup? Possibly, but I don't know. That would be interesting. I think that would be fun. If you could go anywhere in the world and money being no object, where would you visit? San Marino in Italy would be the first place I would go to. I visited there when I was like 12 or 13 with my mother and my grandparents. And it's a city-state, like the Vatican is a city-state, but it's on the top of a mountain in Italy, and it's just the most magical place in the world. There was a night we were coming home from dinner, and it had just rained, and it was very dark. There's not a lot of bright lights, or there weren't back then, because this was like the 1st century, you know, AD. Everything is stone. There's a wall surrounding the city, and all the buildings are made of the same stone. And everything was wet and dark and glistening, and it was glowing at the same time. And it was just the most magical moment. And I remember this distinctly. It was gorgeous. I would love to go back there. I would also like to go back to Germany and see what some parts of Germany are like and how they're different from my memories as a young person. I would like to go back to Castle Neuschwanstein as well, which is the Cinderella Castle. When I was 13, maybe 14, we went up to visit the castle, and I remember very little of the inside, but getting up there, it was in a horse-drawn carriage, and this horse in front of us, we're going up pretty steep, and it's pooping and farting and the whole way, and it was like, we were in the back of this wagon, and the smells and the view, and it was just really, honestly, probably the best laugh I've ever had in my life with that trip. It was really, it's funny now. Susan, hi Stephen, I was wondering if the house hunt is still on. I sure hope so. Yeah, part of me wants to just not look and stop because I want my house, but that's being childish and immature, which I do very well. The chances of that house being back and available to me is very slim and in the future. I don't know when, and I have to start letting go of that, I think. There's a couple properties, not many, that I'm interested in looking at that I would accept, but nothing beats that house for me. So after this next trip, I'll be looking at a couple of houses, hopefully, with my realtor. I have so many questions. Would like to know. I would love to know how you like living in Vegas and compare it to other places you've lived. All right, so I like Vegas. I like Vegas because it's quiet. I don't drink. I don't gamble. I don't smoke. I don't go to girly bars. So people go, "Why are you in Vegas?" It's quiet. You know, I don't do a lot here. It's very kind of low key. I love the desert landscape. The mountains that surround us are gorgeous. The few times I have an opportunity to go out and see places like Red Rock or Valley of Fire, it is just it touches my soul in ways that other places in the country have not. And it's affordable. I can live here on my own by myself. I could not live in a larger city. Like Boston, New York, San Francisco, Portland, I mean, Chicago. I just couldn't, Fort Lauderdale. I couldn't live in those places and not have roommates. I'd have to have roommates. So I like Vegas, mostly because I can afford Vegas. And Vegas isn't bad. I just don't get a lot out of it. It's whatever. So the place I'd like to live the most, and I keep saying it, is probably the St. Pete, Clearwater, Dunedin, Palm Harbor part of Florida. But those places have their negatives that also make me stay here too. So that wasn't a very good answer, sorry. All right, I was wondering how you became a makeup artist. Okay, so there's a very long bit there by creme brulee, but the basics is, how did you become a makeup artist? I'm looking at the time on this video. This is going to be a longer one. Sorry. I know some of you are happy for longer videos, but not everybody is. All right, so how did I become a makeup artist? I'll try to make this succinct. If you saw me recently in a recent video where I was in Boston, I was in Faneuil Hall Marketplace, or Quincy Market. So in Quincy Market, there are carts that line up and down the inside and outside during nicer weather. When I first moved to Boston as a very, very, very young man, I had no job experience, really no education, nothing. I was basically a lump walking. But I had some sort of personality, I don't know. But the only job I was able to find was selling hot sauce in a kiosk in Quincy Market, right behind the Chip Yard. If you know Quincy Market, you'll know where the Chip Yard is. Amazing little chocolate chip cookies. It was a kiosk that sold hot sauce, and I worked there for $5 an hour selling hot sauce. I know. There was a cart that was frequently near us owned by a woman named Carol Lucas, who changed my life. And she had a no-name makeup, like a zero. It was just like a no-name makeup where she had her own sticker put on it saying it was made in Boston. It wasn't. But it was, she said something like, "Stephen, I see that anytime someone comes into Le Saucier, they walk out smiling and they have a bag with them, like they bought something." So she offered me a job for $6 an hour to work for her instead. And so I jumped to it. I remember she made us wear white t-shirts, khaki shorts, and a pair of black clogs. That was our work uniform. I sold makeup off a cart for $6 an hour. And all we really did, we didn't put makeup on someone's face, but we would get the most popular color, number 6 chocolate cherry, and someone just walked by, and I'd put it on my hand, number 6 chocolate cherry, number 6 chocolate cherry. And it was, pieces were $5 a piece, or $6 a piece, for 5 for $20, something like that. But so I sold makeup on a cart. I was an art major. When I did I did have some college experience. So I was an art major. And so I had some understanding of color and line and theory. I had done drag a couple times as a young person. So I kind of understood makeup. But when I needed to find another job, because that cart was closing, I found an opportunity at this place called Boston Beauty Supply. And they were hiring for their shop in Lexington, Massachusetts. And so I interviewed. I told them I had more experience as a makeup artist than I did at the time. And so they wanted someone to really increase their sales as for cosmetics. So I went and I interviewed, and I got the job. Now, I lived in Bay Village in Boston at the time. I had to take 2 subways and then a bus and then walk a quarter of a mile. It took me like 2 hours to get to and from work each way. And I did it. I did it, and I loved it. It was $7 an hour, and then I eventually got $9 an hour. But I really honed my skills doing makeup in that darn little beauty supply store. And then again, I went to Lord & Taylor in Boston, went to the Estee Lauder counter and got a job there, telling them I had more experience than I did. And then I was working with Clinique for a little while, and I still love Clinique, honestly. I think they have great makeup. And I was working at Clinique, and I got a phone call from Dave Dodge, who is like Simon Cowell of cosmetics in Boston. He managed the cosmetic department in Neiman Marcus. And he asked me, he said, "I've heard good things about you. Would you come over and interview with me?" And so he came. I went over there. He offered me a position with Versace, and they had a cosmetic line. And then I moved up from there doing makeup for Versace. And then I did a lot of work outside of retail, doing headshots and 1 or 2 small little student films, and occasional little odd jobs where people would hire me to do special event makeup and things like that. I did weddings for about 2 years, and I grew to hate them with a passion. And that is how I ended up becoming a makeup artist. What was that, 10 minutes to tell you that story? And I'm sure there's other bits and pieces that I could tell you about that. But all right, there's only a couple more questions. Why not do this? Make it go through. Can we get the stories, biographies behind your fur babies? I've heard how you adopted Buddy and named him, but I don't know how you've shared. Okay. All right. So, Buddy, when I met him, I was like, "Hey, Buddy. Hi, Buddy. What's going on, Buddy? Hey, don't go in there, Buddy." His name wasn't Buddy, but he eventually became Buddy. Eleanor, I found Eleanor under a car in the parking lot of my current apartment. She was a little blob of black and white. If I think about it, I'm going to try and insert a picture of what she looked like when I found her. Right here. Hold on. Yeah. So that was Eleanor. She was very, very sick, and she was dying. She had the incision from her being neutered was open and infected. And I brought her into the house, rocking back and forth, crying. And I brought her to the vet the next day. And when I brought her to the vet and they asked her for a name, I looked at her, and she just looked like an Eleanor to me. She looked like a little bit of a lady, a little old lady, and Eleanor popped to mind. That's it. Claire, I found Claire. She was hiding in a corner near our laundry machine, and her eyes were both infected. Both of her eyes were infected shut. She couldn't open them. And she was bones. I said, "Hey, sweetheart." "Hi, sweetheart." And she came over right away, and I picked her up and I started crying because she was like, it was like petting Knuckles. She was all bones. She hadn't eaten or drank in a long time. And I still had eye drops left over from Eleanor because she had an eye infection. So I started putting eye drops in her eyes, thinking, I'll find homes for you and Eleanor when you guys are healthy. And in naming her, I thought this video was forever long. I'm so sorry, guys. When I was looking for a name for her, I thought of St. Francis. If you Google, after you watch this video, go Google the prayer of St. Francis. It's all about how loving is more important than being loved. And so it's by self-forgetting that one finds self, you know, and it's my favorite prayer in the world. Now, you know I don't believe in a God, but I don't pray a lot. But this prayer is like my favorite, and I think it's something that we could live by. So I I didn't think Francis was a good name for her. But I looked up St. Francis and his followers, his first followers, and St. Clare, C-L-A-R-E, was, I guess, one of his first followers. And she's the patron saint of sewing, and I love to sew, needlework. She's the patron saint of eyes or optics, and I've spent a few years working in optical industry. And there was just something about Claire, especially that spelling, that I just thought was equal to her sweetness, because she is the sweetest, most loving, I kind of want to cry. She's the most delicate, just sweet cat ever. And I thought Claire sounded nice. So that's how Claire got her name. A little bit more of a story than Eleanor or Buddy. Have you ever interacted with a celebrity during your travels or while I was in luxury? Stephen King. I've bumped into Stephen King a couple times. The guy from This Old House, I can't remember his name. He was a jerk. Mary-Kate Olsen, I sold her the sunglasses that she wore on the cover of People magazine before she went to rehab. That's about it. My airline, it's an ultra low cost airline. We don't get a lot of celebrities on board. So no. And tell us some of stories from your makeup artist job. All right, so there's only a couple of questions after this. One of the things that I actually talked about during my interview for my job as a flight attendant was like, how have I made someone's day, or how have I changed someone's day? And there was one day I was working for Clinique, and a woman brought in her sister-in-law for a makeover. And the sister-in-law walked in, and I think I've told you the story. She walked in this like old saggy sweatshirt that used to be white but now was kind of pink, and it had a big decal of this like cartoon drawing of a white Persian cat. And it wasn't like this ironic something you got at home at Urban Outfitters. It was just like an old lady sweatshirt, and she was wearing leggings with the knees that were kind of blown out, and she just had this like really rough, horrible haircut, and she was kind of thick and kind of just ungainly and really just unhappy. You could just, she looked unhappy. And I was, I just kind of started off my whole thing with, hi, what's something you would like to change, about with cosmetics or skincare and blah, blah, blah. And it just turned out she just needed someone to talk to. It seemed like her husband had left her, stereotypical story, for the secretary, who was younger and prettier. So he left her for his secretary, and she just felt like garbage. And she wanted to feel pretty for a day. How could you not be touched by this story, right? So I did her makeup. We talked about skincare. We did her makeup. And I didn't go overboard. I just gave her pretty. And that's always my goal with makeup, is to go for pretty. Not, performing surgery with eyebrows and contouring. Pretty. And she felt pretty afterwards, and her sister-in-law was there, and all three of us are crying. And she gives me a great big hug, and it was just like this death grip hug, like a life preserver kind of hug, and it was really a transformative moment for me. And probably one of the first times I remember being able to love a stranger and show compassion and empathy, not sympathy, because empathy is a much different thing than sympathy as well. That's a different story too. But that is one of my favorite stories of being a makeup artist. Oh, and there's this one young woman. She was Persian, Iranian, and she was in Boston for school, and she was blind, like legally blind. She could see, she could make her way through like shadows. She could like move through air spaces, but she couldn't see color, and she couldn't see up close. But she wanted to be pretty, and she wanted to be able to do her own makeup, even though she was blind. I was working at Neiman Marcus at this time in Versace, and so she was my best customer. But she would come in, and we would literally block off 3 hours, because I wasn't being paid by commission. I was being paid by the hour at the time, and we would spend like 3 hours, and I would write big giant letters on the back of the labels of the packaging. P for like pink or something in terms of a blush. And so she learned how to do makeup while she was technically blind. And the relationship we had, she shared everything with me. And it was an example of being able to love someone and trying to empathize rather than sympathize. And it was just a beautiful time. I loved her. Tell us about one of your most embarrassing moments, the funny ones. Honestly, the only one that comes to mind that I can really tell you that wasn't really, really horrifying is the 2 times in my life when I've assumed someone was pregnant. There's never going to be a third. I really can't. Embarrassing moments that are funny. I don't have a lot of funny ones that I can remember because I do tend to be relatively cautious because I've made a number of mistakes and said the wrong thing enough times. So that's about it. And when you buy a house, will you adopt more cats? Probably not. I can't. Even in most of the places I can buy in Vegas, there is a limit of cats or pets you can have. That's usually 2. And I think having 3 is enough. I would like, if I could, I'm lying to you. As I'm saying this, I'm lying. If I could, I would bring Diana into the house and I would have her. But she's the only last cat I could have. And I don't know if I could get more cats. As mine age and die, whenever that is, I don't know if I could replace them with more cats because it would be too much emotionally. I don't know if I could. And the last one, this last person asked, how did you decide to bring your first kitty inside? I didn't. Buddy just kept walking in. My door was open. He'd look inside. He'd walk in. And I'd say, no, buddy, you can't come in here. You can't come in here. I'm allergic. And he would walk in anyway. Then he would walk out. And I'd say, and then the next day, I'm at Marshall's buying 4 cat beds. At the grocery store, buying 3 or 4 different types of cat food because I didn't know which one he'd like the best. And so I went from not letting him in to knowing that he was going to come in anyway. And I couldn't stop him because I already loved him. So I bought 4 cat beds, which he ignored all 4 of them. What are your favorite pasta recipes? And then I'll finish here. My favorite pasta recipe is with my Instant Pot. Brown a large package full of hot Italian sausage out of the casing. Brown it in your Instant Pot. Throw in a chopped onion, a couple, maybe a pepper if you want some onion, some garlic, salt and pepper. Throw that in there. Drop a box of rigatoni in there, uncooked. Put enough liquid, either water or chicken stock, to cover, just barely cover the pasta. Pressure cook that on high for about 4 minutes. Let that come naturally release for a few minutes, then release the pressure. It's gonna be a little soupy, and that's okay. Drop a block, cut it up, but a block of cream cheese in that. Stir in a 1/4 cup or more of Parmesan cheese or parm, whatever, in there. Stir that up, and it will be absolutely vile and disgusting looking. It will look like dog food, but it is so delicious. A lot of chili pepper flakes in there, or maybe a diced up chili jalapeno or something in there when you're throwing in your onion and stuff. But that is my favorite pasta recipe. All right, this video, I don't even know how long it is now. It's way too long. But I feel like I did something now on Vlogmas. So there you go. I will talk to you guys tomorrow because I'm already talked too long. Have a great night, and I will talk to you soon. Fly safe.